but I already know my address. I write 400 to 600 letters every month. I've done this for 40 years. I answer all my mail. You write me. I'm sorry it needs to be in English. And the most important thing is a very clear return address so that my letter gets to you. So if you need a friend, or you have ideas and no one will listen, or you are interested in sharing ideas, or you hate what I'm saying and want to tell me I'm a bad person, write me. I love to write letters. And as I said, I'm caught up. I get a lot of mail, but I stay very on track to stay in touch. Today's presentation is a lecture, Living a Life of Joy, where I propose the audacious idea of how easy it is to never have another bad day, to be happy every day, all day long, the rest of your life. Oh my God, do I want that? I like my bad moments. I will be irritating for those people. But you will hear from me. I am an expert on happiness, as you will find out. And I will actually tell you and show you how easy it is. This was developed as a 5-hour workshop because I like, when I introduce a radical notion like being happy all the time, I like to have an hour and a half or 2 hours of exercises. But they chose to hire the lecture part, and so I edit it because I use the exercises in the conversation. So what we will do is I will give you some background why I feel qualified to speak about happiness and why I speak about it. And then I will say how it is that we ended up to be a global community that is unhappy, and talk about the celebration of pain and suffering. And then I will say something about being happy. And then I will speak about some things that concern me about celebrating unhappiness. And then I will save the best for last and tell you my secrets on how to be happy all the time. They actually aren't secrets. And then we will have questions. So, relax and have your own battle up here. Would I really like to be happy all of the time? I am 67 years old. I grew up in a military family. My father was a professional soldier. He fought in 2 wars in my lifetime, World War II and Korea. And I grew up outside of the United States on military bases. I didn't really live in the United States very much. And it was an unusual environment, a military base, very macho. I didn't fit into this kind of man. I actually, when I watched boys grow up, I didn't want to be like the boys. Because in sports, they cared about winning. That was more important than enjoying. They liked to fight. So, in the modern language, I could be called a sissy boy nerd, which is probably not very popular here. I was beaten up a lot as a child. My father died from war when I was 16. It broke my heart. Before that, he had died psychologically because he had been a soldier. So I actually never really had a father. When he died, we moved back to the United States with my mother and to the southern part of the United States. It was in 1961, and in this period of our history, our black population had no human rights. They could not use the toilet or the drinking fountain, a restaurant, a hotel of a white person. In a land that I thought believed in our Constitution, freedom, and I realized that my country was a fake. Coming from a Christian country, I realized that the Christians were fake. That no Christian would deny water to a person because of their color. I was placed in an all-white school because black students were separated from white students, and I was so unhappy with what this truth was that I spent a lot of my time crying, and in school, because I could not be silent, I was beaten up almost every day. I could not be silent about this wrong. It was my first hit of injustice. And if you saw the Hollywood movie, it starts with me in a mental hospital. That's true, but they couldn't make Robin Williams look 17. And so they quote Dante in his midlife crisis to give the impression that this happened when I was older. But in 1 year, 17 and 18, I was hospitalized 3 times because I was trying to kill myself. I did not want to live in a world of violence and injustice. Everything good in me, everything you like about me, and everything I like about me came from my mother. I had an average, loving, undamaged mother. So all I knew about growing up was love. She was a school teacher, so she interested me in learning. And she was very clear about being kind to everybody, being fair to everyone. And it didn't come from religion for her. It was to be human, was to be kind, to be loving. And my mother was not, though, a political activist. She was not a rebellious person. And so what she taught me did not protect me from this nightmare. And so in the hospitals, I saw a psychiatrist and was placed on a lot of medication. And for me, I didn't think it did anything. But in the last hospital, lightning strikes. Not actual lightning. Figurative lightning. Dummy! You don't kill yourself, you make revolution! Ah, what a beautiful word, revolution. And so I decided I was going to make a revolution of loving. I hadn't heard of a revolution in loving in history. And so I thought I will work for peace and justice as a loving man. Well, and this is when I realized my mother gave me the greatest gift I think a parent can give their child. She gave me self-esteem. So as soon as I decided on who to be, I did not have to develop. She had already made me a person who, when they decide, they do it. Because they know they can do it. I can do it. That's what she gave me as a gift. I can do it. And so I made 2 decisions that changed my life forever. In our unfair, undemocratic country, medicine is a business, a greedy business. It's the #1 greedy business of the country. And so, even though we are the richest country of the world, we deny care in medicine to our poor people. And so I decided at 18 that I would become a doctor and work for poor people. That was an easy decision. I was a science, math student, and I knew it would all be easy. The other decision was much more personal. I asked myself, how can I be an instrument for peace and justice in every moment? I wake up, through the day, I go to sleep, I work for love. And I thought and I decided, and this was a simplistic decision, I said, well, I can choose to be happy every day, all day long, in every circumstance as a political act, to put joy in the public space. It probably was the most important decision I made in my life, because being happy all the time, you don't have days when you just can't do it. Oh, it's too hard. And now, for almost 50 years, every single second, I have been happy. I'm going to tell you how at the end, so you have to stay through the rest of the talk. I left the hospital on fire. You know, anytime you decide to work for love, it's inexhaustible. It's like hiring the ocean as your friend. And I was 18. I had no luck dating women. You women like more macho men. And so I couldn't get dates, and I was the kind of student that never had to study. Everything was easy, so I had all this free time. And that's when I started my extreme extroverted life. And so, for example, for 2 years, every day, very methodically, I called up wrong numbers 2 hours a day to practice talking with people. I wanted to try to find out what tone and what timbre, what me did I have to be to make them want to stay on the phone with me. What tricks. Nothing strange or scary. I wanted to practice friendship. Friendship was a real key for me in all of this. It was my spiritual life, a life in friends. And I spent 10 hours a week going up and down elevators in Washington, D.C. every week, because once that door shuts, there they are, your people. No escape. And instead of the typical style of an elevator where you turn around and show your culo, I engaged people. I said, hi, let's talk, or something like that. And I fell in love with humanity. Another thing I did at the same time was a life in study. My mother was a teacher. To give you an idea, if I fast forward to today, the library that I've read and built is about 36,000 books. I wanted to understand, how is it that we became a world with war? How is it that we became a world of mental illness? How did we become a world of violence and injustice? Because it seemed so clear that these were wrong. And yet here we were, a whole history of it. When I became a family doctor in 1971, I decided, I've been a free doctor for 42 years. I've never made any money as a doctor. And I was going to do it my way. So my first interview with a patient is 4 hours long, because my ideal patient is somebody I get to know as a friend. You ask me to go into your life, I want to know you. I visit your home, because you're asking me to come into your life and be useful. I want to know you. And when I spent that kind of time with patients, obviously I was asked about happiness and their life, and I found that less than 3% of the people I've interviewed for 47 years had self-esteem. That almost no one in my country loved themselves. I love me. And less than 5% had any idea what a day-to-day vitality for life is about. To wake up going, "Yes, I did it! Come! We are living!" So almost, the normal adult, I'm a family doctor, the normal adult didn't like themselves, didn't like their marriage, and didn't like their job. I couldn't figure out why they hadn't killed themselves. They actually acted like it was normal. And so, when I started to go around the world lecturing and performing, I wondered, what did I have to offer? And what I feel I have to offer here this evening is an idea that you could be happy every day, all day long, the rest of your life, if you decide to. The truth is, when I left the hospital with that decision, it was very quick that I really learned it was 6 qualities, really not just happy, but happy, funny, loving, cooperative, creative, and thoughtful. But the decision to be happy was actually the decision to be those 6 qualities as a way of being, a culture even. So normally we would do an hour and a half of really fun exercises to soften you up and get you in a listening mood. And so let's imagine you've done 8 wonderful and fun exercises, and then I begin. What is happiness? I say it's that state of being where one's celebration of life is obvious by their actions. I'm not talking about inner peace. I'm saying you are so damn happy, it shows. You love life. I'll tell you what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about a moment in time. Happy at a marriage. Happy getting a raise at your work. Happy to win the lottery. I'm not talking about a moment in time. I'm talking about a platform from which you launch your life. I am happy. How do I spend it? I'm also not talking about happiness as a reward for something. I will be happy when I lose weight. I will be happy when I'm cured of my cancer. I will be happy when she kisses me. I will be happy as some kind of reward. I'm saying, you noticed you were born, and you would not insult it, this beautiful thing called life, by wasting it having a bad day. And I'm not talking like the founding fathers of the United States who said about the pursuit of happiness, that after many workshops, much psychotherapy, lots of self-help books, you might have a good weekend. To be honest, I'm saying, if you have food and a friend, what are you bitching about? How did we get here? And here I want to contrast my interpretation of history and of human life and culture by contrasting what for me, for 5,000 years, particularly through the male population, we have celebrated pain and suffering. We chose at that time to worship money and power over whatever we pretended we worshipped, and that we celebrated pain and suffering. If you take the religions like Christianity and Buddhism, they say salvation through suffering. If you look at the ancient histories of the Greeks, Herodotus and Thucydides, who wrote histories of the world, they didn't write about, the good time in Athens. They wrote about wars, the winners, and the horrible things they did to the losers. That was history. They could have chosen to write about the good food they ate. And the greatest offenders, of course, of the celebration of pain and suffering is the media. It might interest you, there's never been a daily newspaper about good news. Much more good news happens every day than bad news. For example, I woke up. That's the headline. I didn't die. All right, I woke up. I have another day. Headline. 2 inches tall. I come from the Washington area, and the big Washington newspaper, the front section are the international murders, wars, and horrible events. The local news are the local murders, horrible events, nasty things people are doing. The sports section is multimillionaires playing with their balls. And it used to be called the arts, but they felt that was a little presumptuous, so they call it entertainment, where they discuss mediocre singers, mediocre performers, and want you interested in them. Raise your hand if you can think of anything more important than loving. Let me make sure you heard the question. Raise your hand if you can think of anything more important in your life than loving. You'll notice no one raised their hand. Now, I've lectured in 70 countries. I've asked over 30 million people this question, and maybe 10 have raised their hand. So mathematically speaking, loving is the most important thing in life. Only in a pain paradigm celebration would the most important thing in life be not taught for 1 hour in a single public school in the 13 years of public school education. Nowhere in the world. Isn't that weird? The celebration of pain and suffering. I mentioned it about the elevator, okay? If our spiritual worlds, whatever your religion or your spiritual life is, speaks and thinks of love as important, when the elevator opens, why do we quickly turn around and shut off the possibility for humanity? Maybe I could get someone. Can you jump up here? Yes. Yeah, just unless it would hurt you. Come on up. I want to show you the simplest experiment I did. I did many, because remember I did it 10 hours a week for 2 years. Okay, this is a man on the elevator. Now I go to hotels all over the world, and I still study elevators, and normally the door opens and I turn around and hide myself from this person. And back when I was 18, I said, if we want to love revolution, what's another possibility? And this is what I started to do. This was the simplest experiment. Door opens, and I do this. Notice we're not touching. And, hey, what's up? I was even wondering, what did I have to wear? What did I have to say or do? How could I be that would make the person relax? And how many floors before I could do this? Put my hand on his shoulder. Mayday. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, if you look everywhere around, you will see how we celebrate this love of pain and suffering. Take my profession, the profession of medicine. The experts on mental health are psychiatrists. These are experts. Normally, you think of an expert as somebody knowing something. It might interest you that I've looked all over the world and I haven't found one psychiatric textbook. It can be 1,000 pages long that has one sentence on mental health. And when you become a psychiatrist, you study 4 years in a residency, which has a lot of hours. You could be studying lots of things. I haven't found one psychiatric residency with 1 hour lecture on mental health. So the experts on mental health get no education on mental health. So what do they offer their patients? Diagnoses and medication. It might interest you. I'm probably the only family doctor in the United States that never once gave a psychiatric diagnosis or a psychiatric medication. So our experts on mental health don't know anything about mental health. And you will see this. Okay, I think of the school teacher as the most important person of human culture. Okay? Not just because my mother was a school teacher, but this is the first person that is a stranger we give our children to. And the school teacher all over the world is horribly treated and horribly paid. The most important person, where a man who kicks the ball or throws the ball or bounces the ball can make $100 million. They're doing nothing. In fact, if you don't get up and play with a ball and just sit on the couch and eat empty carbohydrates and drink beer, you're doing worse than nothing. Gaining weight, not exercising. And this is, again, a natural part of the pain paradigm in the same way that clearly if we look at what the world loves, the world, the people who own the world, they love money and they love power over other people. And we could have chosen to love God. We could have chosen to love our families. It might interest you, no country was ever safe to its women. No country in history was ever safe to its women. And I'm just trying to give you some background of this celebration of pain and suffering. We love to hurt. We love to suffer. Oh. I mean, we so like suffering that we actually, on a tiny little ball called Earth, with over 7 billion people, seems impossible, we can be lonely. You have 7 billion choices. Okay, the worst idea in the pain paradigm is this idea of war. Why does anyone show up? You know, I have to say I don't like that my father died from war. I come from the #1 warring country. They love war in the United States. And when the Vietnam War came and I was of the right age and they still had the draft, it was very simple for me. Refuse to go. That was how easy it was. I decided I wasn't going to do it. That is how easy to refuse to do violence. I'm not going to do it. Ha ha. I got in trouble for doing that, but war seemed like a lot more trouble to me. I don't actually understand that whoever hurts another person must be so deeply immersed in the pain paradigm that they find a way to imagine they can hit a person, hit their wife, hit their children, kill people, destroy whole people, and somehow that works into them also being religious and also... And again, I'm just trying to set the stage to understand, if you're wondering how it is that in a world where you do have food and friends, that you're not really happy, you're in the climate of unhappiness. That you grew up reading newspapers, watching TV, and so by the time you have cognitive, critical thinking, you actually have been tricked to think those are normal. Okay, what can I say about happiness? Not much. It's a choice. You wake up in the morning, what shirt will I wear? What tie? What personality will I be? Think I'll be happy today? It's a choice, as simple as your shirt. You can also choose not to think about what you're going to be. Then you'll just be whatever is. It is a choice. I don't think I ever made anybody happy. In my whole life, I don't think I made anybody happy. In my whole life, I don't think anybody made me sad. I think things happen, and that you choose what the response to them is going to be. I think of all of the emotions are good. There are no bad emotions. I think of the emotions as the sense organs of the mind. If you are angry for injustice, that's the right emotion. You have that emotion of the wrongness. It goes to your mind, and that's why we have thinking. Thinking says, work for justice. In the same way, if your child dies, to mourn, to grieve, to weep in sadness is the right emotion. I am happy when I grieve, when I am sad over the starvation I've seen and the wars I've gone to and the disasters I've gone to, because I am having the right emotion. The question is, what does one do with the emotion? I also think, evolutionarily speaking, in the same way I thought that the emotions became the sense organs for the mind, but thinking evolved as an instrument for healthy community, for healthy tribe. As we moved from apes and chimpanzees to being Homo sapiens, that it was so complicated to be a group that thinking was the evolutionary step to make that possible. You can think solutions to being in community. I think that's why people who want to control a society want to give you bad educational systems and own the television stations so that they can actually train you not to think. So then emotions become emotions, and thinking isn't part of the equation. So actually you can do anything you want, which is what I think my government does. And I also don't want to imply that happiness is good. Good to be happy. Nice. Bad to be sad. Bad person. I don't think it is an ethical or a moral decision. I think it is that damn thing called a choice. One choice in one's life is to decide to be who you decide to be. It is a great freedom. I will be this. Well, here is the medical conundrum. It is good for you to be happy. Oh my God, it's good for me. You mean biochemistry and physiology? Yes. Never in the history of science, never has any scientific proof ever been shown that there is any value in any human situation to be serious. And yet in the United States, you want people to take you seriously. There's no data. There's no data showing a positive value ever to being unkind, bored, nasty, violent, unjust. There's not one paper in all of science that says those things ever give you anything good for yourself. And there are thousands of papers, unbelievable research showing the value of being happy, being loving, being funny, being cooperative, being creative, being thoughtful. That those have thousands of deep research. It's good for you. Now I know research, most of my patients never listen to the research. The research said exercise regularly and you will not feel old when you are old. So I am 67. I've exercised all my life, so I actually don't feel old. How do you get someone to exercise? How do you get one to decide to be loving, decide to love life? Unfortunately, you have to decide to exercise and decide to be who you decide to be as an option. So you can live as if you're not in a choice, so that you have a partner and you wake up in bed with a partner and you say, I'm not a morning person. So you look over to your partner and go, okay. That's normal for them. Then you go into the bathroom and you look in the mirror and go, oh, who is that? Oh, that's me. Okay, that's the pain paradigm. Now in the joy paradigm, and this is a trick if you have a partner, when you wake up with your partner, and your eyes meet, look like you just felt it was the best moment of your life. Now, why did you have a partner? So you decide that when you wake up with your partner, you are going to be so loving it scares them a little bit. And you're going to go into the bathroom in the morning and look yourself in the mirror. And that's the rest of your day. You're nice at work, you're clear. Just imagine your life if you decided to be happy all the time, the effect on your marriage. What would the effect be on your relationship with your children? My children, 36 and 25, both work for me, and they work cheap. And you can't make your children work with you. My brother, who's 68, we work together. And what if you took joy to work? And just all the time, everyone who works with you wants to be with you because you're nice and kind and happy and loving. And let's just say you did that in your life. How different would your life be? Because if you go up and down and up and down and down and down and down and down, and you have stresses, then that's going to make you increase cigarette smoking, increase drinking, increase the violence to your wife and children, to your husband. You're not going to take a political interest in your community and society because you're beat at the end of the day. I just can't go on. And so you do what the forces that own the world want you to do. You turn on the television and veg out. I want to talk about three things that concern me about the pain paradigm. Because in those 4-hour interviews with my patients, I found so few that love themselves, so few that like their marriage, so few that they wanted antidepressants, anti-anxiety medicine, which are the top drugs prescribed in our nation. So I'm going to talk about three things that really concern me about people. And if you read 20th century literature, it's also all over that literature in all countries. And that is loneliness, boredom, and fear. It is clear to me that loneliness is the worst human experience. If you go into the mind of a murderer, if you go into a mind of a person who does horrible things, you will find loneliness. Clearly, the worst depth of suffering I've seen as a physician is from loneliness. We have to have connection with other people. We have to. A rare person can get it from God. They're very rare. You have to have it with at least one other human being where you feel loved and you are able to give your love to that person. Now in medicine, they ignore it. In fact, the psychiatrist, the family doctor, you will tell them your story. It will sound perfectly reasonable that you are depressed and they will give you a tablet. One of the things people don't like me saying, I'm sorry, is that depression is never an illness. Depression is a pharmaceutical company diagnosis. The #1 prescribed drugs. Depression is never an illness. It is a pharmaceutical company diagnosis. Depression is a symptom of loneliness. But no company would ever be able to sell a pill for loneliness. You cannot have a friend dancing in your head and be depressed at the same time. That's how you know you have a friend. They're dancing in your head as a presence loving you. I'm not a religious person, never was. But I know that if you have God, the way you know you have God is you can't be depressed because God is dancing in your head. Okay, it's not Christian on the bracelet in the hospital. It's the experience of presence of God. For me, it means presence of friends. We have to practice getting close to people. When I grew up, I heard people say, you're lucky to have one or two friends. Of course you're lucky. Why didn't they say 1 or 2,000? No. What is it? It's in a pain paradigm. In the pain paradigm, the statement is you can't trust strangers. In the joy paradigm, it's everyone is your friend until they prove otherwise. You know, why not just assume when you walk down the street going, hola, my people. It's a very different life. And it's mostly true. If you're friendly, if you're kind, if you're interesting, people want to be with you. Duh! Oh, golly. In the exercises, had we done them, I asked people to pair off with somebody they don't know. To sit down on the floor, close together, looking at each other's eyes. And one person is only a listener, never says anything. The other person talks about the joy in their life. No problems, just the joy in their life. Can be anything. And after 6 or 7 minutes, it feels like forever. They switch, and the other person becomes the listener, and the other person speaks about the joy in their life. And in the description of the lecture, I asked them how many felt that they started to like this person that was talking with them. And everybody raises their hand. And maybe some only raised their hand because they didn't want the person to think they didn't like them. But the truth is, they like them. Everyone hates when the exercise is over. So they actually made a friend in 2 units of 6 minutes. And that's how hard it is to begin a friendship. So you can practice, right? You can, whenever you're next to somebody on an elevator or you're in a cafe, and instead of sitting by yourself, look around and say, who is the person I would least likely sit with? And go sit with them. Once you decide that the world are your friends, then everybody is a playmate. What did I say? If you take away from here nothing else, please go out and be friendly the rest of your life and connect with people. There are millions of people that if you knew them would be your best friend, your best friend. Millions of them. In every country, every age. I'm sorry, that's how good people are. Okay, boredom. At our hospital, we consider boredom a medical emergency. Radar, 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 person bored. I don't know what it means to be bored. I am sure I have no personal experience. My mother was a 5th grade school teacher. She taught me to be interested. So I'm interested. She didn't grade my interest. She fed my interest. So whatever I showed an interest in, she would feed me. If you looked at my library, you would see I have maybe more Mexican writers than you have in your library. Writers from all over the world, 4,000 nature books. You know, because I love education, maybe 700 or 800 books on education. Because I'm concerned about war, maybe 1,000 books on war and violence. Trying to understand in all of the arts. Boredom. I think of the worst invention of the 20th century was the television. I haven't watched a TV show all the way through in over 35 years. I don't know how anyone has time to watch television. You want to watch commercials? What is interesting, I mean, a person could be studying a musical instrument, going deeper with their partner and their children. They could be plotting to end poverty in their city. They could clean up the environment. If you had that extra time enough to sit down in front of that television. You know, when you say I'm bored, and our young people in the United States, they say it like they say good morning, I'm bored. They're saying there's nothing to think about, there's no person to think about, there's nothing to remember, and nothing to anticipate. I can't conceive what that means. Okay, if you're in love, hopefully you're anticipating kissing. Do they anticipate kissing in Mexico? Who anticipates kissing? Okay, a few people. Okay, what about who can remember a particular kiss? You know, I mentioned kissing because for me, kissing Susan is the greatest experience I know in life. You can get there. Boredom. I promise you, if you think the word boredom is coming into your life, you need a major overhaul. You're saying you're not interested in anything. You know, 200 of the books in my library or more are on insects. I love bugs. I love bugs. When I was a little nerd, sissy boy, and didn't do sports and hid from bullies, I went out in the woods and did bugs. Weird stuff, bugs. We've had a couple of million years of evolution. They've had 500 million years. Very unusual long hairs. You know, they suction on their feet. And they inch their way along, eating like crazy. And then something happens and they stick to a twig. Are surrounded by a big cocoon and change into a butterfly. What do we have to show that something like that? Unbelievable. Sometimes you wish your children would do that, right? But they'd go into a cocoon and come out a butterfly. If our educational systems were great, the school would be the cocoon and they would come out on fire as thoughtful adults. Fear. It's an interesting time in history for fear. I mean, if we go way back in history, fear was a good idea, you see, because there were big animals with sharp teeth. And we didn't have sharp teeth. In fact, we had a club. And so fear made you, if there's a lion over here, and you've got 6 people, fear says, be the person farthest away from the lion. And stay that way. Or climb a tree or whatever. So fear was a good thing. What I don't think we noticed was that why were we a group? Some animals are solitary, but we are a group animal. We actually are not an I. That's philosophically a new concept. I, the individual. We actually are a we. The only way to safely be an I is when you're in a nest of a we. Your extended family, your circle of friends. Because we are safe, really only when we feel that protection of a we. And you can see that in animals. There's a wonderful African animal, the meerkat. I hope that isn't hard to translate. Maybe it's a meerkat. In Spanish? Okay, at least the interpreter knows. Great. All right. The meerkat is a group animal, okay? It's a little furry animal, a mammal. It lives underground as a group. Why does it live underground? Because up there are sharp teeth. They fly around and they run around looking for little cute meerkats to eat. And the meerkat doesn't have a protection. And so, in order not to be frightened to go outside, they all go out together. And they have sentries standing up. They look very funny on their hind feet. And their sole job when they're doing that is to look for birds, animals that want to eat their friends. And their friends don't have to be frightened because other friends are covering them. And as soon as they alert them, everybody goes home right away. No one said, yeah, no problem. In our modern society in the United States, we have a really high divorce rate. We have a very high rate of people living by themselves, of people feeling alone. And so in this bad economic time, we have a huge number of people losing their homes because what is your security? In my mother's generation, the father made money, the woman stayed home, worked harder, but she didn't work for money. In my generation, the woman started to work, and now people are losing their jobs, and because they only have themselves and their partner, they're panicked and frightened about their security because we don't have a nest of a we. The smartest thing I ever did 42 years ago was to start a commune. Our hospital model is a communal model where all of the permanent staff live together. And so if you had 60 people living together, 40 could lose their job and 20 still take care of everybody. And the fear that happens, you'd be amazed how many people are frightened. They're married and they're frightened because they don't have the quality of intimacy, of security, even with their partner. And children are also frightened they see their parents not happy. So that fear, now we have panic attacks, free fear. I've even found it interesting that it has a negative connotation. People go to Stephen King movies for free fear. Why aren't they enjoying their panic attack? Stimulating. So, turn off your TV, develop your nest, and get really good at friendship. Okay, Now the prize, dong, dong. What did I do at 18 to make myself happy? One thing I did, and I say it poetically, I dove into the ocean of gratitude and never found the shore. So for 50 years I'm swimming in gratitude. It's such a big ocean. All of the things you're thankful for. Thankful for healthy children. I'm having a first marriage of my children in 2 weeks. And I love his partner. Boy, has she helped him. You know, the gratitude for a ripe avocado. Who likes a ripe avocado? Just that perfect avocado. Can I hear an O? Ripe avocado. Perfect avocado, yes. You know, or it doesn't matter. The music, I don't know. You know, I love Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto because it's me. You can like 9-inch nails. It doesn't really matter. You know, the people who picked me up from the airport were listening to Frank Sinatra. And they were 20. I don't think 1 in 100 American 20-year-olds know who Frank Sinatra is. But here, they want to hear Stranger in the Night. Lonely people, they were strangers in the night. Up to the moment. Okay, so gratitude, damn it. Gratitude, you know, I'm going to tell you something about my life. I walked toward suffering, both as a doctor and a clown. I clowned at 10,000 deathbeds. I helped 2,000 children the day they died of starvation. I've taken clowns into war, many refugee camps, to Haiti, to Sri Lanka, wherever there is suffering, I go to. And when I think of a child dying of starvation and I think their life is hard, how can I ever say my life is hard? Before I discovered this, I was grateful, and the gratitude was huge. I just am so thankful for arms and legs, so thankful for literature. You know, I love poetry. I know 4 hours of poetry by heart. I have a show with my partner, 2-hour show, where she performs Chopin and Schumann, and I perform poetry. And I died and gone to heaven. So grateful. But once you see that the horror, we have a project in the Amazon now for our whole life that started 8 years ago, because we found 5-year-old children with gonorrhea. And, you know, I've been working against the slavery of children, sexual slavery of children for many years, and we just decided that we're going to be in this one place and try to do what we can. And if you can't be grateful for arms and legs and food and your parents or whatever, then go to the horror of this world and see if you can't find gratitude for your life. Thank you. You know, if you're having a rough day, just start going around going, thank you, yeah, thank you for shoes. Oh. Me, I say thank you for color. I like color. Okay, this other part about making happiness comes from 3 words as kind of a formula. intention, performance, and consequences. In this case, the intention is, I will be happy, I will love life, I will love life. Notice I am not saying, I'll try to love life. I could love life. I should love life. I will love life. In the same way I say I will raise my right hand, I'll 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 raise my right hand. Who's in charge here? Me. When I want to raise that right hand, I will raise my right hand. I will love life. I'm in charge. Having an intention, what is your job? In every moment, you think of all your life experience, all the circumstances you've been in. You think of your love of improvisation, and you think of which performance in this moment will best put my intention forward. And then you have that beautiful cybernetic loop of looking at the consequences. How did I do? And if you don't like how you did, change the performance. Loyalty to the intention, I will love life. So if you saw me clowning, you would see that I try something, and if something isn't working, I try something else. In the same way with medicine. Same way with Susan, same way with my children. So, I am partnered for 20 years with Susan, and I want to be, and so I say I will be a loving partner. So I'm not going to be a not loving partner. In this moment, what can I do that will delight her? So I listen to everything I ever heard her say she wants, and I do it. Here's a little trick for those who want a nice romance. Listen to everything your partner wants, and unless you have an ethical reason not to do it, why aren't you doing it? Are you a dummy? Maybe you don't want a relationship. But if you there's this idea, you fall in love, boom, 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 it's so good in the first month. 2 years later, oh yes. You're not operating from intention. If you're in a relationship and you want romance, it is today. It's never yesterday or tomorrow. You decide who you will be. And then you pay attention. In Buddhism, it's called mindfulness. Meaning I am present, 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 I am present. You're not going, oh my God, taxes, oh my God, taxes, I will be present, oh my God, taxes. You are present. Okay, I think we're going to have some time for questions and answers, and the way I suggested is that there was a microphone and that you would walk up to the microphone rather than have the person run up and down these steps, because then we would need a marathoner. Okay, so be thinking, and let me make an offering. You can't ask a question I'm not ready for. Okay? Challenge me, disagree. I have no privacy. so you can't ask a question that is too private. Talk to me. If you want to make a statement, you can do that. How are we doing for microphones?
Tenemos espacio para 5 preguntas nada más. Él tiene que regresar a México para tomar un vuelo de regreso a su casa.
Are you saying it's 5 minutes wait or something? What? No, forget the 5 questions, okay? Let's just, until they say hack stop. Just say hack finish, okay? So, if you put the microphone down here, I'm sorry you have to walk, but it's good for you, and maybe you'll think about giving up your cigarettes. So, please, if you have no questions, then we're going home. Or I start reciting poetry, and my interpreter shoots me. So, please do not be shy.
Les pedimos por favor que si quieren hacer una pregunta hagan 2 líneas, una de este lado y una de este pasillo, y les vamos a ir turnando los micrófonos. Por favor.
And I now know Spanish.
Hola, buenas noches, doctor Paz. Por acá no.
Where are you?
Tu mano izquierda.
Oh, I thought people were going to line up. Okay.
Ah, claro. Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Araceli López. Conozco su bibliografía, como muchos me imagino, a través de su película y que los felicito por su obra. Y mi pregunta es, que hace rato comentaba que tenía 6 claves para ser feliz permanentemente, ¿nos las podría dar?
Okay, I actually said they were 6 things. When I decided to be happy, I was 18, and very quickly I realized it wasn't that I decided to be happy alone, that I actually decided to be happy and funny and loving and cooperative and creative and thoughtful. That those were like 6 pillars of my life, or 6 attributes of culture that I wanted to do. And so each of them are, I think, very different. And they all influence each other. Great.
Mi pregunta, doctor, ¿por qué crees que toda la juventud, y sobre todo en tu país, se destruye a través de las adicciones?
Which addiction? The addiction to the internet?
A todo, no, bueno, sí, a todas adicciones, pero sobre todo a las sustancias, a lo que consumen,
okay.
heroína.
That's what I'm asking this. I'm thinking, what does he mean? Addiction to tobacco? Does he mean addiction to television? Does he mean so many kinds of addictions? Addictions to sugar, certainly addictions that concern us about the relations between the United States and Mexico. Are there addictions to the illegal drugs? There are also the addictions to sex trade. So it's a big category, addiction. And you're asking why? Well, it's good business. It is fabulous, multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And we all know in the language of profit, if it's profitable, it's good business. Okay? I think this group is trying to make business ethical. And so no business that is ethical would want to profit from these addictions. Another question is, why don't we rise up? Where is revolution to stop this romance of profit? So, why did we invade Iraq? For profit. We murdered 1 million Iraqi people for profit. So, it is, I think, if you look at the interpretation of the last 5,000 years, our gender, men, have promoted the worship of money and power over other people. And so, there are companies working very hard. For example, in the United States, the tobacco companies don't want marijuana legalized because even though 1 million Americans a year are killed by tobacco. So I think also in understanding addictions, you heard me say less than 3% of our adult population has self-esteem. If you don't love yourself, what does it matter what you do to yourself? Okay, that's very easy. You don't love yourself, screw it. So, if you're unhappy, and it's all there, it's all on TV. The TV is telling our children, worship money, worship money, worship money. If our governments can steal billions, you can steal thousands. Because my government deals in opium. My government deals in cocaine. So they deal in billions, and so let's deal in hundreds. And so the ethic is, if you read in the news and are young that governments are thieves, governments are murderers, governments live this crooked life in collusion with these drug dealers and arms dealers and sex dealers, then what reason would that young person have not to do it in their little life? You know, if we're going to have the separation between the poor and the rich, if I'm a black boy in the ghetto of Washington, and I don't have a father, and my mother is working 3 jobs to try to take care of me and my 5 brothers and sisters, and every night my mother is weeping, frightened that her children are going to turn to drugs, and some man says, hey, if you take this bag over here, I'll give you $50. If it was me, I would do it. I love my mother. And so you're opening up a huge, as they say in English, can of worms, because addiction is one of the great profits, and certainly a way to feed the pain paradigm, that it's one way to make yourself feel better. And instead of kissing. And so, you know, we need to do a lot of soul searching. Are we worshiping money? Is our government owned by wealth? And I know enough about both of our histories to know I'm speaking about the same country. And where do we decide? When do we decide that I'm not going to be part of that equation? I'm not going to. When am I not going to worship money and power? When am I going to turn off the TV? And if I have, in my own life, in my lecturing, I make $1 million a year. I give it all away. I wanted to show my children that I didn't want to own anything. That I want to be rich in giving and in working for love. And so we need another value system. so we can start teaching love in school as an intelligence, like we teach mathematics, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for 13 years. Then we would have a completely different world. I don't just love as a feeling, love as an intelligence. So that for me, addiction, it's connected to business as usual. And if people are unhappy, they are going to turn to the legal psychiatric drugs. All pharmaceutical companies lie about all of the psychopharmaceuticals. So it looks to me very much like heroin, marijuana, cocaine. They look like the same thing to me. Billions of dollars instead of addressing the fact that we are not being loving, tender people. Let's get to work.
Hi, Dr. Patch. You're like a hero to me. You have always been ever since I knew you. Y bueno, mi pregunta es,
If you speak in Spanish, then I won't hear English. Oh, okay, you speak in Spanish, and I will know what you say. Thank you.
mi pregunta es, ¿cómo logra usted sacar el coraje para hacer las cosas que hace? Me refiero a cómo logró empezar a hacer lo que hacía, a pesar de que toda la gente dijera que estaba loco, o que estaba mal, o ¿de dónde saca esa inspiración, ese coraje? No sé, ¿de dónde se inspira usted?
You know you've heard one answer I would give, and that is I make me. I don't care what's happening out there. I decide who I will be, and I've done that since I was 18. I don't care if people say I'm crazy or wrong or troubled, dangerous. I am focused in a very deep way to make me. I actually would say I'm the opposite of courage. I am not courageous enough not to be me. And I want you to really understand what I'm saying. I am a coward. I am a fragile, delicate, soft, very easily damaged person if I don't be me. I'm not brave enough to try not be me. I don't think it takes any courage to be who you are. You decide who you're going to be, and then you are that. But, you know, when people have offered things to me that went against my ethics, like after the movie, people offered, Patch, if you will promote this thing, I'll give you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I didn't like the thing. And I didn't have the courage to take the hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I'm not going to say I like the thing if I don't like the thing. And I speak up for justice. So if I hear a racist comment or a sexist comment, even if I think I will be beaten up, I say something. And maybe people think that takes courage, but what I know is that if I don't speak up, I beat myself, and I'm hell on myself. So I don't have the courage to be silent. I want this idea that it takes courage if I see an action movie, I never think of myself as the hero. I never go, oh yeah, I'm going to be Rambo. Never. I have no Rambo. I'm not going to be violent, so I'm not even going to defend my family. I chose to never cause physical harm to another person. And that I'm not brave enough to change that. And so this thing about making me, I'm trying tonight to say that it's really easy. You decide who you will be. In the same way, okay, I will lift my right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg. Susan and I study tango, and you have to do a lot of right leg, left leg. And it's helpful to do it a lot. So, hear me. It's really easy. You decide, then you do it, then you pay attention and say, did I do it? And if you didn't, then do it. Protect yourself. Thank you.
Mi pregunta va en este mismo.
Okay. I know how long we have.
Mi pregunta va en ese mismo sentido. Digo, estoy de acuerdo contigo de que, pues bueno, yo creo que todos que tenemos el objetivo en la vida de ser felices, pero pareciera, sobre todo siendo empresario, que todo el mundo quiere que seas infeliz. No digo en el sentido de que, pues las circunstancias, tú has escuchado quizás alguna vez que como empresario pareciera que escogimos una de las actividades de deporte extremo, ¿sí? De las más peligrosas o riesgosas, en el sentido de que pues, tenemos problemas, tenemos retos. ¿Cómo realmente lograr estar, o sea, no creo que baste con la intención, o sea, cómo puedes verdaderamente lograr ser felices cuando queremos realmente serlo, pero hay 1 millón de gentes que no lo permiten? Sí, o sea, me refiero a empleados, proveedores, gobierno. O sea, ¿cómo lograrlo? O sea, qué bueno sería que con una plática se llenarían estadios con decir que con la intención se logra ser feliz. Claro que todos somos felices, pero por momentos. Pero permanentemente, ¿cómo lograrlo?
Absolutely 50 years without a break. You know, I'm deciding. Okay? Your doctor says exercise. You go out and you buy the shoes and you buy the outfit, you buy the expensive equipment, and it sits there. You know, the doctor says don't smoke. I can't stop smoking. You mean I won't stop smoking. You don't mean I can't. You mean I won't. I'm saying one option is that you can be all business is not bad. Profit motive, I would say, is bad. You know, that you want to be a business person of integrity. I think that, unless I'm mistaken, that's what these conferences are about. Business with ethics and integrity. Am I right? You know, that's okay, so they're saying it's possible. Let me tell you I worked for a hospital for 42 years. I wanted to build a free hospital. At our hospital, the cleaning person and the surgeon would make the same salary. This is revolutionary. How much? $300 a month. A surgeon in the United States can make $2 million, and I'm asking the surgeon to work for $3,600. Many apply. Okay, when I started in 1971, I was sure I was going to be built in 4 years. You know, I say, you don't know me. I mean, I'm going to get this hospital in 4 years. No one would talk with me about it for 16 years. Okay? 95% of the promises made me in funding were lies. For example, the Hollywood movie. When I signed the contract, I said, does this movie build our hospital? They said, yes, I signed the contract. The movie made $500 million. I didn't get $10. Right. So, if you look at all the money donated to our project in 42 years, over 90% is money I made and donated. So it's actually like a hobby. No foundation has ever given us money. We are the only hospital in the world fully addressing the problems of healthcare delivery, and almost nobody donates. Have you read Don Quixote? You know, to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave do not go. This is my right to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and strong when I'm laying my rest. I don't feel any pressure. I feel the pressure of your grandchildren having no world to inherit. I feel the pressure of dirty rivers, of lies and bullshit, of unbelievable proportion on televisions, meaningless political people. I work for love. Historically, these people like Don Quixote that are called crazy or they're called dreamers, you know, John Lennon. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I'm a dreamer. No country was ever safe to its women. Every problem in history was due to men. When are we going to wake up in time enough for your grandchildren and mine? But to work for love is right, and I'm going to work for love. You can't hurt me. You have to kill me.
Buenas noches, doctor. Buenas noches a todos. Mi pregunta es sencilla. En esta sociedad, las relaciones sociales entre las personas normalmente se ven desplazadas por el odio, el rencor. Mi pregunta es sencilla, ¿qué puede motivar a una persona a amar o a ser amigo o amiga de otra, la cual se ha vuelto inaceptable, se ha vuelto una persona despreciable, vamos, para su vida? ¿Qué puede hacer?
The way you describe it, they don't want to do something. Yes. It's amazing how the threads are very similar in our questions. It is good for business to hate. Love is bad business. If you love, you lend your car, you share your food. In the world of profit, mine! Mine! So the rich dig higher and higher walls, And I can't tell the difference between their homes and a prison. And we want to hate people. We have people in Arizona that want to hate Mexicans. Hate is good business. We have to fight it. Okay? All of the religious faiths ask you to fight it. You know, to be a Christian isn't labeled Christian. It's to be like Christ. The only Christians in the world are people who are behaving like Christ. And I'm sorry, but that's true. And so, I don't know where there are any Christians in the United States. If you are a Christian, you rise up against war. You rise up against hate. You don't hate if you're a Christian. You don't hate if you're a Buddhist. Those are bad people using good things to keep their business going. You know, that imagine if you can, since no school in the world teaches 1 hour, kindergarten through 12th grade, not 1 hour on the intelligence of loving. And still it's the most important thing in life. Try to imagine if loving was taught every day like mathematics, 5 days a week, for 13 years as an intelligence, we would be a different world. I think 85% of our gender men have no idea about loving. I'm sorry, I wish it was only 80%. And so, I mean, if you're hearing me, let's make a revolution for loving. Let's rise up. We can be an example, okay? If no one else is going to be loving, I'm going to be loving. And the truth is, most all of women are loving, unless they've been damaged. Let's, you know, I'm not a special person. I'm just trying to be my mother. That's all I am. I liked what my mother gave me, and so I'm trying to be my mother to the rest of the world. Okay, absolute last question. Absolute last question.
Hola, doctor Adams. Primero que nada, hola de nuevo. No sé si se acuerda de mí del hospital. En fin, mi pregunta es algo bastante tonto, tal vez. Bastante tonto tal vez mi pregunta, pero desde que vi su película, y traté de hacer un poco de investigación para tratar de aclarar mi duda, pero nunca lo pude conseguir. Hubo un momento en especial en la película en que usted estaba en el hospital psiquiátrico y tuvo un momento con un interno que le tenía miedo a las ardillas y que veía ardillas por doquier. Y desde entonces yo traté de investigar si era cierta esa historia o no. Mi pregunta es, ¿era cierta esa historia?
It is the most true part of the movie. It is the only person in the movie whose name was the name of the person in real life. In real life, it was more tragic. The movie, you know, it was my third mental hospital. I thought no one suffered as badly as I did. I was trying to kill myself. And then I am put in a room with this man, paralyzed in his bed from squirrels. He couldn't go to the bathroom. And I would go, Rudy, squirrels, hell, you know, tigers, lions. But So, I think, let's kill the bastards. So I got up, I gave him a machine gun, and I took a machine gun, and we mowed him down. They were dead. We went to the bathroom. Okay, the important point here is this. Before I did that, I thought I was the most suffering, those who's going to kill myself. I can't believe how bad it is. As soon as I stepped out of my misery to work for Rudy, my suffering went away. I didn't have any suffering in this moment. I was interested in helping Rudy. I saw that it did help Rudy, and that was the lightning bolt. That it's not about me, it's about giving your love to other people. I mean, in a way, you saw a little of that in the hospital today. This was not my normal style. Big room, lots of cameras. My style would have been go to each child in their room and give them all of my life and try to find them for what was their squirrels, what was their, what would be things that brought this celebration of life to them. And you saw me use two things I knew that would work. Big underpants, right? Everybody loves big underpants. I have a pair of underpants that 10 adults can get in. The world's largest underpants. I've had the president of Costa Rica in my underpants. With me. And because I could not do it my style, which is one patient, and their families, I tried to think, what did I have that could be spread over this large group of people? I maybe should end and say, if you go on our website, patchadams.org, we do 9 clown trips a year. We've taken ages 3 to 88. Everybody is welcome. We go to human suffering and we take love and fun. I'd like to thank my hosts for bringing me here, and thank you for being wonderful listeners. Let's make a love revolution. Thank you. Go out and make love to the world.